Welcome back, everyone. I hope you're ready for a wild ride today. We've got a story sent in by Dustin, and let me tell you, this one is a masterclass in patience and strategic planning. Dustin is a retired structural engineer from the U.S. who decided to spend his golden years in the tropical heat of Malaysia. He thought he was signing up for endless satay, white sandy beaches, and a peaceful life. Instead, he ended up with a fiancée who treated his retirement fund like her personal piggy bank and his existence like an inconvenience. You know, they say love is blind, but in Dustin's case, love eventually put on a pair of reading glasses, looked at the credit card statement, and said, absolutely not. This is a story about what happens when you mistake a quiet man's kindness for weakness. Spoiler alert, it doesn't end well for the one making the mistake. Before we jump into the chaos in Kuala Lumpur, do me a favor, smash that like button if you appreciate a man who knows his worth, and hit subscribe so you don't miss out on the tea. Here is Dustin's story in his own words. My fiancée said, "You're lucky I even agreed to come out tonight with you." I said, "We'll see." Then I left, in a way she couldn't possibly predict. When reality hit her, she didn't just beg, she shattered. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's rewind to where the cracks in the foundation actually started to show. I sat in my car outside the restaurant, or rather, I sat in the plush leather booth inside the restaurant, staring at the empty chair across from me. It was a rooftop place in the heart of Kuala Lumpur, 57 floors up, through the floor-to-ceiling glass. The twin towers were glowing like two silver spikes piercing the humid night sky. It was a billion-dollar view for a 2-cent relationship. I checked my watch. 8:45 p.m. The reservation was for 7 p.m. This wasn't just a Tuesday night dinner. This was our second anniversary. I had booked this table 3 months ago. I had requested the corner spot, the one with the best view of the skyline, the one Winnie had shown me on TikTok 6 months ago, screaming about how aesthetic it was. "Sir," the waiter hovered, looking pained. He was a young local guy, probably working his way through college. He'd refilled my water glass 5 times. "Would you like to order some appetizers while you wait? Maybe some satay or the truffle fries?" I looked at him. I wasn't angry. That was the strange part. Usually, by the 45-minute mark, I'd be fuming. I'd be texting her, calling her, pacing around. But tonight, I felt a cold, clinical calm. It was the same feeling I used to get back in the States when I inspected a bridge and realized the structural integrity was gone. You don't get mad at the concrete for cracking. You just condemn the building and move on. "No, thank you," I said gently. "I'll wait a little longer." He nodded and vanished, probably to go tell the kitchen staff about the sad American guy getting stood up by a local girl. It was a cliche here. The ATM uncle and the young beauty. I hated that stereotype. I had fought so hard to prove we weren't that. I learned the culture, I respected her family, I tried to integrate. But sitting here alone, surrounded by couples whispering and clinking wine glasses, I realized I was the only one fighting. My phone buzzed on the white tablecloth. I looked down, expecting an apology. Maybe he's stuck in a grab car. Traffic is terrible on Jalan Tan Razak. Or "So sorry, baby, my meeting ran late." Instead, it was an Instagram notification. Winnie_Win just posted to her story. I tapped it. The screen filled with a video. It was loud, booming bass music. The camera panned around a dimly lit VIP lounge. Definitely not this restaurant. It showed 3 girls, Winnie, Clarissa, and Jojo. They were holding up glasses of what looked like moat. Winnie was pouting at the camera, doing that peace sign thing she did, with a caption that read, "Sister's Night. Drinks on me. Hashtag living my best life. Drinks on her." I chuckled. A dry, humorless sound. Winnie didn't have a job. She hadn't worked in 2 years. She called herself a lifestyle curator, which basically meant she curated my bank account and her wardrobe. Drinks on me meant drinks on Dustin's supplementary Visa card. I swiped out of the app and opened my banking notifications. There it was. A charge from the Iron Fairies bar for RM 850. That was about 20 minutes ago. So, she wasn't stuck in traffic. She was pre-gaming. She was hanging out with her friends, drinking my money, knowing full well I was sitting here waiting for our anniversary dinner. It wasn't new territory for us. In the beginning, Winnie was different. When I first retired here 3 years ago, she was a tour guide. She was funny, sharp, and seemed to genuinely love showing me the hidden gems of Malaysia, the street food in Penang, the tea plantations in Cameron Highlands. She wore minimal makeup and laughed at my dad jokes. But somewhere along the line, the we became me. Once she moved into my condo in Mont Kiara, the tour guide vanished. In her place was an aspiring influencer who needed new outfits for every brunch, who refused to eat at hawker stalls because it smells like grease, and who treated punctuality like a suggestion rather than a rule. My respect had become optional. My time had become irrelevant. The waiter returned, looking even more uncomfortable. "Sir, the kitchen closes for main courses in 30 minutes. If she is coming." "She's coming," I said. "She's just fashionably late." "Very fashionable," he mumbled, pouring me more water. At 8:58 p.m., nearly 2 hours late, the elevator doors dinged. I didn't turn around, but I could hear them. Winnie didn't walk anywhere quietly. I heard the distinct clack, clack, clack of high heels and the shrill laughter that pierced through the ambient jazz music of the restaurant. "Oh my God, I know. He's probably so grumpy right now." I heard her voice. It wasn't whispered. It was loud, performative. "Don't worry, babe," another voice said. "That was Jojo. Just tell him he got stuck in a meeting with a brand manager. He eats that stuff up. I know, right? He's so gullible sometimes." My hand tightened around the water glass, but I forced my fingers to relax. Structural integrity, I reminded myself. Hold until the demolition starts. They rounded the corner. It wasn't just Winnie. It was the whole entourage. Clarissa and Jojo were trailing behind her like bridesmaids from hell. Winnie was wearing a dress I'd never seen before. Something short, sparkly, and definitely expensive. She looked beautiful, objectively. But looking at her now, all I saw was a bill that I was tired of paying. She saw me and didn't even flinch. No guilt, no rush. She just waved her hand dismissively at her friends and sauntered over. "Babe, oh my God, the traffic was insane," she exclaimed, leaning in to give me a half-hearted air kiss that didn't even graze my cheek. She smelled like expensive perfume and stale cigarettes. "You have no idea." A lorry overturned near KLCC. We were stuck for hours. I looked at her friends. They were already pulling out chairs that weren't reserved for them, and sitting down. "Happy anniversary, Dustin," Clarissa chirped, grabbing the bread basket immediately. "We decided to crash. Winnie said you wouldn't mind. The more the merrier, right?" "Yeah," Jojo added, flagging down my waiter. "Can we get a bottle of Prosecco?" "No, make it champagne. We're celebrating." Winnie finally sat down across from me. She pulled out her phone and started checking her reflection in the front camera, fixing her bangs. She hadn't looked me in the eye once. "So," she said, still looking at her phone screen, "did you order yet? I'm starving. And don't be mad about the time, okay? You know how KL traffic is. It's unavoidable." "I saw your Instagram story," I said. My voice was quiet, barely audible over the restaurant chatter. Winnie froze for a split second. Her thumb hovered over her screen. Then she laughed, a sharp, defensive sound. "Oh, that was from like hours ago. I just posted it late because the service was bad." "God, Dustin, are you stalking me now? You're being so controlling." She looked up at me then, rolling her eyes. "Don't ruin tonight, okay? The girls are here to cheer you up because you're always so boring and serious. Just order the food and let's have a good time." I looked at the three of them. The entitlement was radiating off them like heat waves off asphalt. They didn't see a person. They saw a wallet with gray hair. They saw a free meal, a free ride, a free life. "I'm not ordering," I said. Winnie blinked. "What?" I said. "I'm not ordering, and neither are you." The silence that followed was heavy, but only at our table. Around us, the restaurant hummed with the polite murmur of anniversary dates and business deals. Winnie stared at me, her mouth slightly open, revealing a smear of lipstick on her teeth. "What do you mean you're not ordering? It's our anniversary. I'm hungry. The girls are hungry." "Yeah, Dustin," Jojo chimed in, sounding annoyed. "Don't be rude. We drove all the way here." "You drove?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "Or did you take a Grab premium on my account?" Jojo shut her mouth. Winnie's eyes narrowed. The cute, bubbly persona was dropping, revealing the sharp edges underneath. "You are embarrassing me," she hissed, leaning over the table. "Look at people looking at us. Stop being a cranky old man. Just because you waited a little bit doesn't mean you have to punish everyone. It's passive-aggressive and it's toxic." 2 hours, I said. "I waited 2 hours. And you brought guests to a romantic dinner without asking." "They are my sisters," she snapped. "They are part of my life. If you love me, you love them. That's how it works here. Maybe in America, you abandon your friends, but not here." She grabbed the menu and waved it at the waiter, who was watching from a safe distance, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else on earth. "Waiter, we're ready. We want the Wagyu tomahawk, the lobster risotto, and 3 orders of the truffle pasta. And bring that champagne." She looked back at me, a smug smile plastered on her face. "See? Problem solved. I ordered. You just pay. It's what you're good at." That was it. The final crack. The bridge didn't just buckle. It collapsed into the river. I didn't yell. I didn't slam the table. I just reached into my pocket, pulled out my wallet, the one she was eyeing greedily, and took out a single RM50 note. I placed it on the table. "That's for the water I drank," I said. Then I stood up. Winnie laughed. It was a nervous sound now. "Where are you going?" "The bathroom." "Don't take too long. The food will come fast." "I'm leaving, Winnie," I said. "I'm going home." "Home?" She scowled. "We haven't eaten. You can't just leave. You have to drive us back later." "I don't have to do anything," I corrected her. "I'm done. The dinner is canceled. The relationship is canceled." Clarissa audibly gasped. Jojo started typing furiously on her phone, probably texting someone about the drama unfolding live. Winnie stood up too, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "You are joking. This is a sick joke. You're trying to manipulate me. Sit down, Dustin. Everyone is watching you." "Let them watch," I said. I turned and walked toward the exit. "Dustin," she screamed. I kept walking. I passed the host stand, past the elevator bank, and headed for the valet desk downstairs. I could hear the click-clack of her heels chasing me again, faster this time. She caught up to me at the valet stand just as the attendant was bringing my car around. It was a humid night, the air thick and heavy. "You can't do this." Winnie grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. Her face was flushed, her perfect makeup starting to look like a mask. "You are a foreigner here. You think you can just dump me and walk away? You need me. You don't know the language. You don't know the culture. You'll be lonely and helpless without me." I looked down at her hand on my arm. "I managed 40 years of working on construction sites and 10 years living alone before I met you. I think I'll manage Kuala Lumpur." "You're old," she spat, going for the throat. "Who else is going to want you? You think the local girls like you? They like your money. I'm the only one who actually put up with your boring stories and your weird hobbies. You walk away now, you die alone." The valet driver, a middle-aged Malay man who had seen me come and go for years, stepped out of my car and held the door open. He looked at Winnie, then at me. He kept his face blank, but his eyes said, "Go, sir. Go now." I gently removed her hand from my arm. "You're right about one thing, Winnie," I said. "They might like the money. But you? You loved the money more than you ever tolerated me. And the tap? It's dry. You'll regret it," she shrieked. "You'll come crawling back tomorrow. I'm going to block you. I'm going to tell everyone you abused me." "We'll see," I said. I got into the car. The leather was cool against my back. I pressed the start button, and the engine purred to life, a reliable, steady sound in a chaotic night. "Don't you dare drive away," she yelled, slamming her hand on the passenger window. "Who is going to pay for the dinner? We already ordered the champagne. Dustin, the bill is like 2,000 ringgit." I put the car in drive. I looked at her through the glass one last time. She wasn't sad. She was panicked. She wasn't worried about losing me. She was worried about the bill upstairs and the humiliation in front of her friends. I touched the gas pedal and pulled away, merging into the flow of traffic on Jalan Ampang. In the rearview mirror, I saw her standing on the curb, stomping her foot like a child, screaming at my taillights. For the first time in 3 years, I breathed. The drive back to our condo in Mont Kiara usually took 20 minutes. Tonight, it felt like 5. My mind wasn't racing with regret. It was racing with logistics. See, Winnie thought this was a spur-of-the-moment fight. She thought I was throwing a tantrum. She thought I'd go home, cool off, and be waiting there with an apology and a credit card when she finally took a grab home. She didn't know about the timeline. She didn't know that 2 weeks ago, when she borrowed my card to buy a handbag instead of paying the electric bill like she promised, I had made a phone call. She didn't know that I had bought a property. Not in Kuala Lumpur. Not in the city where she could find me. I pulled into the parking garage of our luxury condominium complex. The guard saluted me. "Good evening, Mr. Dustin." "Good evening, Risal," I said. "Big night tonight." "Yes, sir." "Yes. By the way, there will be a moving truck coming at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Can you make sure the service elevator is unlocked?" Risal looked confused. "Moving truck? But Miss Winnie didn't mention." "Miss Winnie doesn't know," I said. "And Risal?" "Here." I handed him a folded RM100 note. "When she comes back tonight, probably late, she's going to be very upset. Just let her in. Don't engage." Risal nodded slowly, pocketing the cash. He knew Winnie. He knew how she treated the staff. "Understood, Mr. Dustin. Good luck." I took the elevator up to the penthouse. The doors slid open to our home, or what was supposed to be our home. As soon as I stepped inside, the anxiety tried to creep back in. The living room was a disaster zone of her making. There were Sephora bags on the coffee table. A pile of shoes by the door, not put away, just kicked off. The TV was still on, paused on some reality show about rich housewives. It felt like a museum of her entitlement. I walked to the master bedroom. My side of the room was neat. Her side looked like a tornado had hit a boutique. Clothes everywhere. I didn't start packing. I didn't need to. I walked to the closet, reached into the very back of my sock drawer, and pulled out a thick manila envelope. Inside were the documents I had prepared. The termination of the lease. The bank transfer confirmations closing her access. The flight ticket for tomorrow morning. Winnie thought she held the power because she was young and local, and I was old and foreign. She forgot that I was an engineer. I knew how to build things, but I also knew how to dismantle them. And I had been loosening the bolts on her life for 14 days straight, and she hadn't noticed a thing. I sat down in my favorite armchair, poured myself a glass of whiskey, and waited. The storm was coming, but I was the one controlling the weather. If you've never lived with a chaotic narcissist, let me paint you a picture. Imagine a luxury condo that costs more per month than the GDP of a small island nation, and then imagine filling it with a frat house's worth of impulse purchases. I sat in my armchair, sipping the whiskey, looking around the living room. It was 11 p.m. The silence was heavy, but the visual noise was deafening. There were 3 unopened Amazon boxes by the door. A yoga mat that had never seen a downward dog in its life was unrolled in the hallway, gathering dust bunnies. And the coffee table? It was a shrine to half-finished projects. A vision board she started in January, a pile of diet teas she swore by for 2 days, and a stack of fashion magazines she bought just to put coffee mugs on. But if you looked closer, really looked, you'd notice something missing. Me. My vintage record player? Gone. My collection of first edition structural engineering books? Gone. The framed photos of my parents and the grandkids back in Ohio? Gone. Winnie hadn't noticed. For the past 3 weeks, I've been playing a game I like to call reverse cat burglar. Every time she went out for a ladies' brunch or a content creation day, I was packing boxes. I told her I was sending things to a climate-controlled storage unit because the humidity in Kuala Lumpur was bad for the paper. She bought it immediately. Why wouldn't she? To her, my things were just clutter interfering with her aesthetic. She probably thought I was doing her a favor. The truth was, the boxes weren't in storage. They were currently sitting in a private villa on the island of Langkawi, about an hour's flight north. A villa with a jungle view, a pool that didn't require a reservation, and most importantly, a biometric lock on the front door that didn't recognize Winnie's fingerprints. I finished my whiskey and checked the time. 1 a.m. Still no Winnie. She was punishing me. She was probably telling her friends, "I'm staying out all night. That will teach him to respect me." I went to bed. I slept like a baby. I woke up at 3:14 a.m. to the sound of the front door slamming hard enough to rattle the windows. Then came the stumbling. It sounded like a baby giraffe learning to walk in heels. "Dustin!" she shrieked. Her voice was slurred, a mix of expensive champagne and cheap rage. "Are you sleeping? How can you sleep when I am suffering?" She burst into the bedroom and flipped the light switch. The sudden brightness was aggressive, but I just squinted at her. She looked like a wreck. One of her fake eyelashes was hanging on for dear life, and she was holding her shoes in her hand like weapons. "You embarrassed me," she hiccuped, pointing a stiletto at me. "Jojo had to pay the bill." "Jojo, do you know how humiliating that is?" I had to promise to pay her back double. "That sounds like a bad deal," I said calmly, rolling over. "You are a monster." She threw the shoes on the floor. "But it's okay. I forgive you. You were just hangry. We will talk about my allowance increase tomorrow to cover the trauma." She stripped off her dress, leaving it in a pile on the floor, and climbed into bed. She didn't even wash her face. She just passed out, snoring within 30 seconds, radiating the confidence of a woman who believes the world revolves around her son. She thought she had won. She thought this was just another Tuesday. At 6 a.m., my alarm vibrated silently on my wrist. I got up, showered, dressed in my travel clothes, and made coffee. At 7 a.m. sharp, the buzzer rang. I let them in. 3 large men from a premium moving company. They were professionals, efficient, quiet, and fast. "Morning, boss," the foreman whispered. "Everything marked with blue tape?" "Everything with blue tape goes to the junk removal truck," I whispered back. "Everything else stays here for the landlord." "Got it." They started in the living room. The sound of packing tape ripping was the soundtrack of my liberation. Winnie didn't stir until 7:45 a.m. The sound of the sofa being dragged across the floor finally pierced her hangover. She stumbled out of the bedroom, wearing an oversized t-shirt, her hair a bird's nest. She blinked, trying to process the scene. 3 strangers were dismantling the entertainment center. What is happening?" she croaked. "Dustin, who are these people? Why are they touching the TV?" I was standing in the kitchen, holding a manila envelope. "They're clearing the apartment, Winnie." She rubbed her eyes, looking confused. "Clearing? Why? Did we get an upgrade? Are we moving to the penthouse in the banyan tree? You should have told me. I haven't packed my makeup." The delusion was honestly impressive. It deserved an award. "I'm moving," I said. "You are being evicted." She froze. "What?" "I'm moving," I repeated slowly. "To a place you don't know, in a state you don't live in. And you." I handed her the envelope. "You have until noon." She snatched the envelope and ripped it open. Her eyes scanned the paper. It was a formal notice from the landlord's lawyer. Notice of lease termination. Tenant, Dustin Miller. Lease expiry. Today, 12 p.m. "This says the lease ends today," she whispered. Her face went pale. "But we live here. You pay the rent. You can't just end the lease without asking me. I'm the only name on the lease, Winnie. Remember? You didn't want your name on it because you were afraid of tax implications for your influencer business. But where am I supposed to go?" Her voice rose an octave. "My stuff. My clothes. My furniture." "The furniture is mine," I corrected. "Or it was. I sold it to the junk guys to cover the cleaning fee." "Your clothes? You better start packing them. The landlord is coming at 12:01 p.m. to change the locks. Anything left inside becomes his property." "You're joking." She laughed, but her hands were shaking. "You're pranking me for a YouTube video, right? Is there a camera?" "No camera," I said, checking my watch. "You have 4 hours." "And Winnie?" "I canceled the internet 10 minutes ago." The color drained from her face completely. For a Gen Z influencer, losing Wi-Fi was worse than losing a limb. "You can't do this," she screamed, dropping the paper. "I will call the police. I will tell them you are stealing my home." "Call them," I said, picking up my small carry-on bag. "Show them the lease with your name on it." "Oh, wait." I walked to the door. The movers stepped aside to let me pass. "Dustin." She ran after me, grabbing the door frame. "Baby, please. I'm sorry about dinner. I'm sorry I was late. Don't leave me here. I have no money. The bank app isn't working." "I know," I said. "I canceled the supplementary card, too." "Good luck, Winnie. You wanted to be independent? Today is your Independence Day." I walked down the hallway to the elevator. I didn't look back, but as the doors closed, I heard the most satisfying sound in the world, the realization that the ATM had not only run out of cash, but had also grown legs and walked away. There's a specific kind of silence you can only find in a jungle villa on the island of Langkawi. It's not a dead silence. It's a living one. You hear the cicadas, the distant rustle of macaques in the trees, and the gentle lap of the Andaman Sea against the rocks. It was 7 a.m. on my first morning as a free man. I walked out onto my veranda, holding a cup of local kopi, black, strong, and sweet. The air smelled like rain and hibiscus, not nail polish remover and impending drama. For the first time in 2 years, I didn't have to walk on eggshells. I didn't have to check the mood of the supreme leader before opening the curtains. I sat down in a wicker chair, took a sip of coffee, and picked up my phone. It was vibrating so hard it was slowly migrating across the table. If you want to know what a panic attack looks like in data form, just look at the notification center of a man who has cut off a gold digger's credit cards. It was beautiful. It was like reading a suspense thriller told entirely through push notifications. 12:15 p.m. Grab ride premium. RM 65.00 declined. 12:18 p.m. Grab ride standard. RM 12.00 declined. 12:45 p.m. Grand Hyatt Kuala Lumpur deposit. RM 500.00 declined. 1:30 p.m. McDonald's Bukit Bintang. RM 25.40 declined. That last one really hurt. From a 5-star hotel to a McChicken in less than an hour. That is what economists call a rapid market correction. I scrolled further. There were 47 missed calls from Winnie, love. I really needed to change that contact name to the defendant. There were also 12 missed calls from unknown numbers, which I assumed were her sisters trying to reach me because Winnie's phone had likely run out of data credit. I didn't answer any of them. I had graduated from that school. Then a call came in from a number I recognized. It was Mr. Tan, the landlord of the KL condo. I sighed. Mr. Tan was a nice guy, mostly because he loved how promptly I paid the rent, but he had the spine of a jellyfish when it came to confrontation. I answered, "Good morning, Mr. Tan. Lovely day, isn't it?" "Mr. Dustin." Mr. Tan sounded breathless. "It is not a lovely day here. The police are here. Your friend. She is refusing to leave the lobby." "She's not my friend, Mr. Tan. She's the previous occupant's problem. She is screaming, Mr. Dustin. She is sitting on her Louis Vuitton suitcase in the middle of the driveway, blocking the residence. She says you stole her home. She says she has squatter's rights." I chuckled. "Mr. Tan, you and I both know squatter's rights don't apply to a guest who wasn't on the lease. You have the termination papers. The unit is empty. If she's blocking traffic, that sounds like a matter for condo security, not for a retired engineer in Langkawi." "You are in Langkawi?" he asked, sounding betrayed. "I am, and the weather is fantastic. But she's crying very loudly. It is bad for the property value." "Mr. Tan," I said, channeling my best corporate voice. I returned the keys. I paid the cleaning fee. My legal obligation to Unit 30B ended yesterday at noon. If you let her back in, she becomes your tenant. And I warn you, her credit score is lower than her shoe size. There was a pause, followed by a sigh of realization. "Okay, I will tell security to call the police to escort her away. So sorry to disturb you." "No problem. Good luck." I hung up. I almost felt bad for Mr. Tan. Almost. I went back to the notifications. The text messages were starting to roll in from mutual acquaintances. This is the thing about KL expat circles. Everyone knows everyone, and gossip travels faster than a motorbike on the sidewalk. A message popped up from Razak, a guy I used to play golf with. "Razak, bro, saw Winnie's TikTok. She's crying in a 7-Eleven. Says you abandoned her, and she's homeless. She's asking if she can crash at my place. What did you do?" I typed back. "I didn't do anything. I just stopped doing everything." "Razak, she says you were abusive." "Me? I was abusive to her credit card debt." "Look, Razak, if you want her, she's yours. But hide your wallet and lock up your whiskey." "Razak, LOL. Okay, I'm telling her I'm out of town. Good luck, bro." I put the phone down. The narrative was already spinning. In her version of the story, I was the villain, the cruel, rich foreigner who used her for her youth and then discarded her like an old iPhone. In reality, I was just a guy who finally realized that youth isn't a currency that covers a lack of character. I looked out at the pool. It was blue, pristine, and empty. No inflatable flamingos. No friends taking selfies for hours while I sat in the corner paying for the drinks. My stomach grumbled. It was lunchtime. In the old days, lunch was a negotiation. Winnie would want sushi, but only from a place that cost RM 400 head. Then she complained the rice was too cold. Then we'd go get boba tea, and I'd stand in line for 20 minutes while she waited in the car because it was too hot. Today, I walked to the local seafood shack down the road. I ordered grilled stingray, spicy kangkong, and a fresh coconut. Total cost, RM 35. I sat there, digging into the spicy fish with my hands, watching the local fishermen bring in their boats. The food was hot, the beer was cold, and my phone was on Do Not Disturb. I checked my banking app one last time before closing it for the day. 2:15 p.m., Sephora KLCC. RM 1200.00 declined. She was trying to buy makeup. She was homeless, sitting on a curb, likely waiting for her parents to drive down from Ipoh to pick her up in their beat-up Proton, and she was trying to buy makeup. I laughed out loud, startling a stray cat near my table. "Sorry, kitty," I said, tossing it a piece of fish. I just realized something. I paid a stupid tax for 3 years, but the subscription is finally canceled. The cat ate the fish. I finished my beer. The sun was high, and for the first time in a long time, the view in front of me was better than anything on a screen. They say you can run, but you can't hide, especially if your ex-fiancée has an internet connection and the investigative skills of the FBI, provided the crime involves missing money. 2 weeks had passed since the Great Escape. My life in Langkawi had settled into a rhythm that was dangerously close to perfect. I woke up, I swam, I ate food that didn't cost a mortgage payment, and I read books without someone asking me to take 47 photos of them holding a coconut. But while my physical world was peaceful, my digital world was under siege. I made the mistake of checking my email one morning. Winnie had shifted tactics. She had gone from sad victim to online crusader. She was posting daily videos titled Surviving the Narcissist and the Truth About Expat Men. In one video, she claimed I forced her to dress in designer clothes against her will. In another, she said I had early onset dementia and had forgotten that I promised to buy her a condo. "Is confused," she cried to her camera, with a filter that made her eyes look like anime saucers. "He is old and frail. He need me to take care of his finances." I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my toast. Frail? I was currently hiking 3 miles a day. Confused? I knew exactly where my money was. In my account, not hers. But I got careless. That is on me. One evening, feeling particularly relaxed after a sunset dinner, I posted a photo on my own private Facebook. Just a picture of the view from a specific beach bar. Yellow beanbag chairs on the sand, a specific lighthouse in the distance. I captioned it, "Finally found peace." I forgot that I hadn't blocked one of her sisters, Clarissa. Clarissa must have screenshotted it, sent it to Winnie, and Winnie must have triangulated my location like she was hunting for a limited edition handbag drop. 3 days later, the peace died. I was at that same beach bar, sipping a cold beer and watching a fire show. The vibe was chill. Reggae music, sound of waves, tourists laughing. Then the air changed. You know that smell? The one that hits you before you see the person? It was a mixture of heavy vanilla perfume, sweat, and desperation. It was a scent I knew well. Dustin. The scream cut through the reggae beat like a chainsaw. I froze. I slowly turned my head, hoping it was a hallucination brought on by the humidity. It wasn't. Standing at the entrance of the beach bar was Winnie. But not the Winnie of Kuala Lumpur. This was unraveled Winnie. Her hair, usually sleek and ironed to perfection, was frizzy and fighting a losing battle against the island moisture. Her makeup was melting. She was wearing a dress that was far too fancy for a beach bar, and she was dragging a suitcase across the sand. She looked like she had walked here from the airport. "I found you," she yelled, pointing a manicured finger at me. "You thought you could hide?" From me. The entire bar went silent. The fire dancer actually stopped spinning his fire poi. I stayed seated. The gray rock method. Be boring. Be unreactive. Be a rock. "Hello, Winnie," I said, taking a sip of my beer. "You look sweaty." "Sweaty," she screeched, marching over to my table. She kicked a beanbag chair out of her way. I sold my Dior saddlebag to buy a flight ticket. I took a bus to the jetty. I took a ferry with chickens. Chickens, Dustin. That sounds like a deeply cultural experience for you, I said. You always said you wanted to connect with the real Malaysia. Stop it. She slammed her hands on my table, knocking over the salt shaker. You can't just leave me. We have a contract. A spiritual contract. We had a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, Winnie. And you got fired for misconduct. I'm not an employee. She was hysterical now. Tears were streaming down her face, mixing with the mascara. I am your future wife. You promised to take care of me. Look at me. I'm homeless. My parents are making me sleep on a mattress on the floor, without air conditioning. The locals working at the bar were starting to gather. In Malaysia, making a public scene is a huge cultural taboo. It's called losing face. And Winnie wasn't just losing face, she was shredding it. Sir, the bar manager, a large man named Asman, stepped forward. Is this lady bothering you? Yes, Asman, I said calmly. I don't know her. Well, I used to, but now she's trespassing. Winnie spun around to face Asman. Do not touch me. I am his wife. He is having a midlife crisis. He is senile. She looked back at me, her eyes wild. Give me 10,000 ringgit. Right now. Cash. And I will leave for 2 days. Then we could talk about my allowance. 10,000. I raised an eyebrow. Winnie, I wouldn't give you 10 cents to use a payphone. You have the money. I know you do. I saw you eating lobster on Instagram. She lunged for my bag sitting on the table. That was the mistake. Asman and 2 other waiters moved fast. They intercepted her before she could touch my property. Let me go. You are assaulting me, she screamed, thrashing around. Dustin, tell them I'm the lady of the house. You're not the lady of anything, Winnie, I said, standing up. You're a stalker, and I'm calling the police. I pulled out my phone. I had the number saved. I also had the digital copy of the police report I had filed in KL regarding the credit card fraud. Police. Her face went pale. The fight drained out of her instantly. In this country, you do not want to mess with the police, especially if you're creating a public disturbance. Yes, harassment, attempted theft, public disorder. I tapped the screen. Hello? Yes, I am at the beach bar. I have a situation with a stalker. Yes, I have the documentation. Winnie broke free from the waiters, but she didn't attack again. She backed away, looking around at the sea of phones recording her. She realized, finally, that this wasn't her curated Instagram feed where she could delete the negative comments. This was reality. You are evil, she hissed, grabbing her suitcase. You will die alone. Maybe, I said, sitting back down. But at least I'll die with a positive bank balance and quiet evenings. She turned and ran, dragging her suitcase through the sand, looking like a defeated reality TV star whose show just got canceled mid-season. The bar remained silent for 3 seconds. Then, the fire dancer lit his poi back up, the reggae music restarted, and Asman brought me a fresh beer. On the house, Mr. Dustin, Asman said, shaking his head. That woman, very bad vibes. Very bad vibes indeed. Asman, I agreed. Cheers. But I knew this wasn't the end. Desperate people do desperate things. And Winnie had just sold her last designer bag. She had nothing left to lose. And that made her dangerous. You don't need the police to destroy someone's ego. Sometimes, all you need is a beat-up car and a bank receipt. After the scene at the beach bar, Winnie didn't go to jail. She went somewhere far worse for her brand image, the budget seating area of the Langkawi ferry terminal. I went there the next morning to pick up a package from the mainland. And there she was, sitting on her Louis Vuitton suitcase, looking like a melted candle. Her phone was dead, no charger. Her hair was frizzy, no AC, and she was staring at the floor. When she saw me walking toward the ticket counter, she stood up. She didn't scream this time. She didn't have the energy. She just looked hungry. Dustin, she said, her voice small. I'm stuck. I can't even afford the ferry ticket back to the mainland. My cards are all blocked. I stopped. I looked at her, really looked at her for the last time. The entitlement had finally been burned off by the tropical sun. I know, I said. I blocked them. Can you just buy me a ticket? She asked. Just a ticket. I'll go home. My parents are picking me up at the jetty in Kuala Kedah. Please. I thought about it. I could leave her stranded, but I wanted her gone. Fine, I said. I walked to the counter and bought a single one-way ticket. Economy. The seat right next to the engine where it's loud and smells like diesel. I handed her the ticket. She took it, her hands shaking. Thank you, she whispered. Then the old instinct kicked in. Dustin, is there any chance? I mean, for the sake of our 3 years, could you help me with a little cash? Just to start over. I smiled. It was the moment I had been waiting for. It's funny you asked that, I said, because 2 months ago, when I decided to leave, I actually set up a goodbye fund for you. I put RM 50,000 in a savings account. I wanted you to have a safety net. Her eyes went wide. The dollar signs flashed in her pupils. 50,000? You have that. I did, I nodded. But then you stole my credit card info. You stalked me. You tried to humiliate me on TikTok. I'm sorry, she blurted out, stepping closer. I was just emotional. I can delete the videos. I can fix it. Just transfer the money. I pulled a piece of paper out of my pocket. It was a donation receipt. I can't, Winnie. I emptied the account this morning. What? Where is it? The Langkawi Animal Shelter, I said, showing her the receipt. They have a lot of stray cats that need food. And the difference between you and the cats is that the cats don't bite the hand that feeds them. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She looked like a fish on dry land. She had fumbled 50 grand because she couldn't control her temper. The ferry leaves in 10 minutes, I said, checking my watch. Enjoy the ride. I hear the engine vibration is great for the lower back. I walked away. I didn't look back, but I heard the pathetic sound of her dragging that heavy suitcase toward the gate. Later, I heard from a mutual friend that her parents picked her up on the mainland. They didn't bring a nice car. They brought the old, rusted Proton Saga that had no air conditioning and a broken muffler. Imagine that. The Queen of Kuala Lumpur, who demanded first-class everything, sweating in the back of a 20-year-old car, riding home to sleep on a mattress on the floor, knowing she threw away a fortune for a few likes on Instagram. That evening, I sat on my veranda with a cold drink. The sunset was purple and gold. My phone was silent. My bank account was full. I took a sip and smiled. Freedom isn't free, but man, it sure is worth every penny. If you enjoyed this story of a gold digger digging her own grave, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story time. Stay safe, stay smart, and keep your credit cards close. See you next time.